para lo que queda para este espacio de la tarde, porque tenemos una interesantísima jornada para cerrar con invitados internacionales. Quiero apurarme en favor del tiempo y dejar en este espacio y contarles un adelanto, porque vamos a estar desde Francia con el doctor Jean-Yves Blay, director general del Centro de Léon Bérard, quien va a exponer sobre la experiencia francesa en torno al Plan Nacional del Cáncer y el papel que cumple la Agencia Nacional de Planificación Sanitaria. Pero quien nos va a entregar más detalle y quien va a precisar justamente el alcance de lo que va a compartir con nosotros el doctor Jean-Yves es justamente el doctor Pablo González, subdirector médico de radioterapia oncológica de la FALP, que nos va a entregar más ATC. Bienvenido, doctor.
Muchas gracias. El profesor está conectado. Yo creo que está escuchando. Me acabo de dar cuenta que habla español razonablemente bien. Él no tiene traducción, así que vamos a tener que hablar en francés. Perdón, en inglés. O en algo parecido al inglés. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Pablo González, and I'm the head of radiation oncology in FALP. And it's my real pleasure to introduce the next speaker, Professor Jean-Yves Blay, with a pre-recorded lecture, and he will be available afterward to answer one or two questions. Dr. Blay is a very distinguished professor of medical oncology and the general director of the Comprehensive Cancer Center Léon Bérard in Lyon, France. Professor Blay is also the current president of UniCancer, the French Federation of Cancer Centers. And among his many notable achievements, Dr. Blay has served as president of the European Organization for Research and Treatment of Cancer, the EORTC, and he's also the president of the French Sarcoma Group. We are really honored to have Dr. Jean-Yves Blay joining us today via teleconference. Could we start?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Jean-Yves Blay, and I would like first to thank you very much for inviting me to share with you some of the work which has been done in France within UniCancer with the French cancer plans and the impact it had on better management of patients and development of personalized medicine. My name is Jean-Yves Blay. I'm a professor of medical oncology. I'm working in Lyon, France. I am also the director general of one of the comprehensive cancer center of the French Federation UniCancer, Centre Léon Bérard, and I am the current president of UniCancer. These are my disclosures, both as an investigator and also as a director of the hospital with all the contracts to which I'm responsible. Today, I'm going to share with you three topics. First, a presentation of UniCancer. In second, a presentation of the cancer plans in France since mid-2000, actually. And finally, some example of the precision medicine programs which were developed in France within UniCancer, thanks to the cancer plan, and which I hope have had an impact on the management of patients with cancer in this country. Let's start with UniCancer. UniCancer is the Federation of Comprehensive Cancer Centers in France. It has emerged actually as a series of hospitals who started quite early in the 20th century, actually, Curie Institute and Claudius Regaud Institute. These were the pioneers which created the first comprehensive cancer centers in the 20s and the 30s. After the Second World War, Gérald de Gaulle created the comprehensive cancer centers whose aim was to treat patients at the same level in all regions and to be engaged in cancer research in all its aspects, from prevention to treatment to tertiary prevention. These were comprehensive cancer centers in the sense that they were dedicated only to the treatment of cancer. Actually, they were created in 1945, and right here, right now, as we speak, there are 20 different sites, 18 different institutes, which are covering France, which are working in the Federation UniCancer on these different topics. These are hospitals with specific characteristics. They are non-profit, private, and yet exclusively working in public sector. So no private activities in these hospitals. This is purely public funding. The patient has to pay nothing. 18 centers, 20 sites, plus 2 additional partner sites, which are recently joined our network, Avignon and the Institut de Cancérologie de Polynésie Française in the middle of Pacific in Tahiti, which are partners to our actions. We are a federation, which means that we have altogether about 25,000 salary full-time employees, salary people. And these different centers are working together to establish rules as a federation of hospitals on how to pay, how to valorize the activity of these institutes. What are the key figures of this federation? We have about, as I was mentioning, 23,000 employees. We treat about a bit more, 500,000 patients per year. We are 18 plus 2 affiliated centers on 22 hospital sites. We are representing a significant proportion of the treatment of patients with breast cancer, with GYN cancer, with endocrine cancer, with rare cancer, and I will be mentioning several examples of this in the coming minutes. We have a recognized expertise at European and national levels with pediatric oncology, with oncogenetic laboratories, with reference centers for rare adult solid cancers. I will be coming back to that. A large number of clinical trials are open in the French Federation, over 700, as you can see, and overall in the French Federation of Cancer Center, which is in cancer, 16% of the patients are treated in a clinical study, which is, of course, something which is quite substantial. In terms of scientific production, the production of the Cancer Federation, which is Unicancer, is 1/3 of the publication in oncology in general, from basic to translational to clinical research. We have a unique model in that we are university hospital. We are linked with university. We propose care, routine care of excellence, of course, research in all aspects, from prevention to biology to mathematics and so on. And we provide also education being connected with the university. We are specialized and we work only in the field of cancer, and we are connected at regional level and national level to ensure that all patients, all French patients, have access to the same quality of treatment all over Europe, all over France, sorry. This was the initial objective of the Général de Gaulle, actually, and this is very much our mission, which means that in each region, there is one comprehensive cancer center of the Unicancer Federation, and here, it can accept patients from all the region and largely beyond, because we are sometimes treating patients from other regions or from Europe or for other continents. So we are comprehensive cancer center. We are also a French, but also a European federation. We are the first academic sponsor for clinical trials in oncology in terms of number of patients put into clinical studies per year, about 6,000 per year. We are doing this type of studies in a classical clinical study type of research, but also doing translational research and prevention studies. These research programs are conducted either Unicancer being a sponsor or centers being sponsored, which means that all the activity of research is not linked only to the central facility, which is Unicancer located in Paris, but all centers have their capacity to be promoter, sponsor of the study. And that's something which is quite specific. This is explaining why we have so many clinical studies ongoing. Also, our specificity is a vision of research, which is really a continuum from bench to bedside, where we really want to expose the doctor and the researchers to the same environment and to build connections between the different body of which are composing our centers. So this means that doctors in oncology are spending half of the time, for some of them, in the lab or in a research facility in general, and the other way around for researchers interested to participate into several aspects of clinical or epidemiological studies, for instance. We are one of the largest sponsor at the level of Europe, and we have actually active clinical studies at an international levels, not only in Europe and also but also beyond, in North America in particular. We have 30 active international trial with close to 50 open recruiting sites elsewhere in outside France, with studies which are conducted in different continents. I mentioned North America, but also studies were open in Australia, in Japan for some of them. Again, the numbers are evolving, but this is quite a dynamic activity of clinical research. The research which is being led by Unicancer itself in the Paris site is composed, as you see here, of a bit more than 100 active clinical studies, including 42 in recruitment phase when the slides were built. We have about a bit more than 20,000 patients enrolled into clinical trials promoted by Unicancer. We also have database which recapitulate the real-world evidence of patients being treated in France outside of clinical studies. Real-world data is called the ESME database, which is operational for breast, for ovarian, and for lung cancer. About 12 trials are activated per year. This is also, and that's very much important, connected with translational research. Above 75,000 samples are available in a repository ready for translational research based on these clinical research programs which are led by Unicancer. Some example of this research program, I mentioned already ESME. I want to say a few words about access, which is basically a basket study aiming to propose targeted treatment on the basis of the presence of molecular alteration. I also want to mention MyPETS, which is an international study coordinated by Unicancer and funded by the European Union, which is evaluating a new breast cancer screening strategy based on the individual risk of the patients. Several other examples could be provided. Unicancer is a very active federation of hospitals and developing its own research, academic research, throughout its network and beyond, as you have understood. We have actions also at the European level and are connected to a wide variety of different structure at the European level with international recognition, which has been already mentioned, such as classifications, such as Newsweek classification, but also accreditation processes which are ongoing in the organization, the European Cancer Institute, the OECI, which have been labelizing a majority now of the CCCs of the Unicancer Federation. We have developed cooperative projects on a wide variety of different teams who have ensured mobility and training of healthcare professionals from different countries. We have multiple collaboration in different areas. Again, if I want to mention only clinical research with the EORTC, we have a wide variety of different interaction with European partners, whether they are scientific societies, research institute, Federation of Comprehensive Cancer Centers in Europe, and also European project on which I'm going to spend a few minutes now. One of the European project, which is very dear to my heart because I'm working mainly on rare cancers and mainly on sarcoma, is a European reference network on rare adult solid cancers. There are 4 of them, European reference network dedicated to rare cancers. 20 others are dedicated to rare disease. Huracan, which is the ERN dedicated to rare adult solid tumors, PETCAN for pediatric cancers, Genturis for genetic predisposition, and EuroBloodNet, UBN, which is dedicated to rare hematological malignancies and rare hematological conditions, not only malignancies. So a large number of centers are participating to these networks. They are connected. These networks are connected also to the national networks, making it, in a sense, a network of networks. And this is what is exemplified on this slide. You can see here that the Huracan European Reference Network on Rare Adult Solid Cancers covers all Europe and beyond, with more than 100 centers 21 scientific societies and associated partners, and we are covering the different fields of tumors which are composing the rare cancer group of tumors domains: sarcoma, GYN, GU, neuroendocrine, digestive tract, endocrine organs, head and neck, thorax, skin and eye, and brain tumors. Our activities within that, and that's a strong activity that we are developing, is making of clinical practice guideline and standard operating procedure for best management. We're organizing exchange program, training and education, leaflet for the education of the patient. This is mainly work which is being conducted by our patient-associated partners, who play an important role, a very important role in this European reference network, and we are trying to build, but this is somewhat difficult, and I will be coming back to that, a registry which is aiming to collect all patient information with rare cancer. But as we all know, rare cancers, it's about 22% of all cancers worldwide. So in countries of the European Union, that's about 500,000 people with rare cancer, affected with rare cancer, newly diagnosed per year. So a lot of work, but basically the work of EURACAN is clinical practice guidelines, a second opinion, education of the physician, research, and registries. We are working also on joint action, which are tools made by the European Commission to try to disseminate this organization of comprehensive cancer center at a European level. There are many different projects which are connected to this topic on prevention, on organization of molecular characterization. These joint action are continuing in progress. I want to quote here joint action on CRANE dedicated to the definition of CCCs, and Jane related, which is engaged in the identification of network of expertise for rare expertise such as proton beam therapy, to give you some examples. Finally, we in Unicancer are very much involved in EU research project in a broad sense. I mentioned already some of this project with my pets, but there are many different projects in many different areas, from quality of life to biology to targeted treatment or hormonal treatment, on which we are participating. So this is really in Unicancer our ambition to be able to accelerate in Europe with interaction we are building in Europe, cancer research, treatment, care, and education, building on the existing tools that we have, and trying also to complement what we have and what we do not have across countries to be more efficient. You know, in few words, our priorities in Europe are to improve healthcare and research, and to promote the expertise and the model of comprehensive cancer centers to treat the patient, participate to networking project, to develop shared decision-making processes in relationship with the patient, very important ambition of Unicancer at the national level, but also at the European level. And in terms of research, developing health data research, developing cutting-edge research in the different areas of oncology. I will not get too much into details. I will be presenting some examples in a few minutes. Development of innovative therapy with phase 1 and first-in-human platform, developing translational research and increasing our knowledge on cancer, and developing supportive care as well as personalized prevention and screening strategy. So that's for Unicancer, which is a federation of hospitals, as you understood, which is treating patients, developing its own academic research, clinical, translational, and in all dimensions, and connecting with Europe to try to be more efficient globally at a different level. So we are a federation of hospitals, and we benefit from the support which was given to us in the last 20 years by the French Ministry of Health in the form of cancer plans. And I want to make it clear at the beginning that the cancer plans are actually led by the Institut National du Cancer, French National Cancer Institute. And I will summarize in a few slides what they have been doing in the last 2 decades or so, with origin of the first cancer plan, which came out from the significant increase of incidence and prevalence of cancer, high exposure to risk factors with poor prevention strategies, and major inequities in access to care, despite a healthcare system which was at the time well developed. We had a lot of room for improvement, despite a good existing network of care. We could do much better. So this led to the first cancer plan, which aimed to do several things, actually, to create the French National Cancer Institute, to create a very important tool, which was a national network of hospital-based cancer molecular genetic platforms, which was extremely helpful to define the genetic epidemiology of many rare cancers, and to set up a system of systematic multidisciplinary tumor board for all patients. There were two prevention measures at this time: fight against tabagism and the reinforcement of breast cancer screening. This led to a second plan, which took place between 2009 and 2013, whose aim was threefold, indicated here: development of cancer research and innovation, reduction of social inequalities again, and support for people at high risk of cancer, and also the cancer survivors, which, as we know, are also people at high risk of cancer. This led to several important results and significant advances in clinical research and personalized medicine, with the development of personalized care at a more global level, development of clinical research program, and high throughput genomic sequencing programs. I will be coming back to that in a few slides, and also platforms to develop personalized medicine and tumor identity card, making it possible to propose to a broader population of patients the benefit of personalized medicine. Following that, a third plan was announced in the end of 2010s, with aim to propose the following objectives, which were very much consistent with what was developed before that: curing more patients with severe disease, developing continuity and quality of life, optimizing the organization of the fight against cancer, and developing prevention. The result of this cancer plan were actually, again, quite positive, with a national tobacco reduction program, which was quite straightforward and active, development of tools for improving the quality of life of post-cancer patients, which was an important goal of this program, and again, the further development of precision medicine and innovative therapeutic strategies in early phase trial in particular. So we developed this program in the three cancer plans, and at the end of the three cancer plans, there was kind of period of analysis of what had been done and what needed to be done, with a new strategy which was requested to the French NCI for the next 10 years, based on observations which were important. Still, about 40% of the cancer occurring in France were preventable. About 2/3 of the cured patients suffered from late effects, and there were cancers whose mortality was still extremely high. Pancreatic cancer, brain tumors, and several others were among those listed. And the objective of this, what is called decennial strategy, 10-year strategy to fight against cancer, it's not a formal cancer plan, were therefore threefold, focusing on these different objectives, with screening, prevention, treatment of patients cured of their first cancer with tertiary prevention strategies. These were the ambitious targets which have been fixed by the French NCI and by the French president until 2030. Prevention, you can see here the different topics which have been put forward: vaccination, screening, prevention, prioritization on alcohol and smoking, identification of individual risk factors to do a better strategy for prevention, more than 200 actions in this chapter. Same is true for the ambition to limit after effects and the quality of life, improve the quality of life of cured patients, with the anticipation of the sequelae of the of the therapies which have been given to the first cancer. The approach to develop treatments which are less intensive, with de-escalation as a question to be tested in randomized clinical setting, trying to shift to ambulatory medicine and telemedicine were among the objectives of this strategy. Fourth priority, combating cancer with poor prognosis, with ambitious strategies and high-risk strategies as well, along with supportive care programs and access to palliative care. And finally, ensuring that the program would be accessible to everyone, to reduce inequalities, and to reduce inequalities not only in France, but also working cooperatively with our friends and colleagues from other countries in Europe to do better, because we are stronger together and more able to cope with the challenges of development of new targeted treatments when we work together at a global level. So we are working in this direction. The actions are progressing. We are right in the middle of this decennial strategy. I don't want to get too much into the detail of the different actions among the 230 plus actions which were identified, but things are progressing nicely. We are far from having accomplished everything. And of course, this is very much work in progress. And of course, connecting this chapter to the first chapter on Unicancer, it's important to mention that Unicancer had played an important role along with other hospitals, private and public, in the development of this cancer plan at different levels, from prevention, screening, research, patient support, development of high quality practice, and of course, development of personalized medicine. Again, I want to stress that for this second chapter, this work, these actions were the results of political decisions which took place 20 years ago, which were repeated by the different French presidents. And the French National Cancer Institute plays an important role, being the supporter and an agency to propose and to support our research programs. They are not the only supportive agency to fund research. We are actually supported by several other agencies, both nationally and at the European level. But the vision of the cancer plan and the strategy and the decennial strategy on cancer comes from the French National Cancer Institute, and therefore it's very, of course, important. To conclude, in the third chapter, I would like to say a few words on examples which were quite successful. What I mentioned in the first two chapter is Unicancer French Federation engaged in the development of this program. The vision, the political vision, and the supportive action of the French National Cancer Institute on these topics. Now, let's see what are the results in a situation where we all know that oncology is completely changing. We used to have a relatively simple object as a cancer defined by histology. In 2024, and since now 20 years, we know that with molecular characterization and immune characterization, we are fragmenting this complex object, which is cancer, into a myriad of different cancer types, which could require themselves each specific clinical studies. And molecular characterization is becoming of age. We started with single gene, we progress with hotspot panel, we are now doing comprehensive genomic profiling, and we are now doing, for some of the research program, whole exome, whole genome sequencing, and sometimes whole genome RNA sequencing, which is something which is drastically changing. Is it that much changing? Yes, it is changing the landscape of patients treated with cancer. But in terms of medication, we also have to be modest and to observe that not all tumors benefit from a targeted treatment. We have still a lot of work to do, a lot to understand in the biology and how the cancers are progressing in order to be able to be more efficient for the majority of patients who sadly do not have in advanced phase a specific targeted approach. But one thing which is quite clear is that we are observing overall a fragmentation of nosological classification throughout the oncology landscape. There are less and less common tumors. There are more and more rare tumors. And a good example is provided by the study which was reported on lung cancer. By the way, that was one of the study which came out from the second National Cancer Plan on the genetic platform. They could screen thousands of patients with lung cancer and observing that the different mutation were associated with a different natural history and a different sensitivity to the different treatment. This is true for frequent cancer. This is also true, and thanks to this platform again, for rare cancers, which are also fragmented, sometimes require specific treatment in population of patients, which represent 10 or 15 new cases per year in a country like France, 67 million people, and sequencing at the codon level can be useful to guide precision medicine for these patients. That's something which came out really from the support of this molecular biology platform in the past. And this also led to, speaking of fragmentation, a better understanding of the classification of this disease, including rare disease, on which I spend most of my time. This is a registry dedicated to sarcoma, which was built thanks to the National Cancer Plan in 2010, and on which we are including progressively all patients. It's an exhaustive registry of patients with sarcoma throughout France. And what this slide tells you is all the work which needs to be done. You cannot see the list of histologies, but you can see that in light blue, dark blue, and green are those tumors with phase 2, randomized phase 2 and phase 3 studies. A majority of these tumors do not have a single clinical study. So this is the work which remains to be done in these rare cancers. And this is going to be also one thing of importance, I think, for the future, to be able to do exactly the same strategy for all cancer types. Of course, a lot of work ahead of us. A lot of work in a context where histology is, of course, still extremely important. There is this fantasy that histology could be replaced by molecular biology. I don't believe it at all. Histology, examination of the tissue and the tumor cell, is always going to be critical, but indeed, molecular biology can help us to guide the treatment, and with a different meaning sometimes in the different tumor types. Same mutation doesn't have the same meaning in different tumor types, and the efficacy of the treatment as a consequence can be very different. But sometimes you can find a treatment which is if not equivalently efficient in all tumor types, can be efficient in fraction of tumor types. And a good example of that is mutations of BRAF genes. You all have seen this basket study paper, which was reported in New England some 10 years ago. The French NCI and National Cancer Plan enable us to do at a national level a similar study to treat all patients whose tumor was equipped with BRAF mutation, identified thanks to the platform of molecular screening. And we published these studies, which were done in lung cancer here, in a variety of different cancers here, from GYN, GU, hematological malignancies, sarcoma, or whatever, with some extremely prolonged progression-free survival, sometimes years or more than close to 10 years now for some of these patients. So useful for some patients. This is precision medicine, and precision medicine is going further in different direction. But the concept of agnostic therapy, which are equivalently efficient regardless of the histological subtypes, is gaining some momentum. Of course, we have all seen the NTRAC papers showing high level of activity as a single agent regardless of the histological subtype. This may not be a systematic rule, but we have seen other examples where this may happen also with red translocation. And to try to get some information on these super rare entities, we have been constructed between Unicancer and Eurocan this registry called Tracking, which is collecting at the European level or at least all those identified tumors equipped with super rare entities and translocation, in order to have an idea of the natural history of these tumors with treatment or without treatment. This is a project which is working nicely, accruing not as quickly as we would expect, but now with more than 120 patients included, and we'll gain some important information on the outcome of these patients. So we have seen from these different national cancer plans at our national level, it was useful to propose screening, but what should we do? Should we do large panel or simple gene? Actually, we will randomize this question thanks to the support again of Unicancer and the French Cancer Plan, comparing a small panel versus a large panel. and the study was reported in ASCO. It's under review before publication. What it basically shows is that a broader panel is more efficient to identify patients with actionable mutation who can be readily treated. That's an important piece of information for this patient. Is it going to be true at a broader level? Do we need to do whole exome sequencing, whole genome sequencing? Well, this is not so sure at that time. This study that was reported from our center showed that actually a majority of patients did not gain some additional benefit from whole exome sequencing, RNA sequencing. But we have this plan connected very much to the National Cancer Plan called France Genomic Medicine Plan 25, soon going to be closed, which has proposed two platforms, one from the south, one from the north, to propose genomic sequencing, whole genome sequencing, and whole exome sequencing for patients with cancer or with rare disease. And this is a plan which is working. We'll see what its outcome is, and to which extent does this enable us to get more access to treatment and trials? And treatment and trials need to evolve in this context. We have no more simple randomized study testing a single entity. We now do basket study, octopus study, as we call them, trial with adaptive design, more rarely N of 1 trials in oncology. These new trials, which were exemplified by the first generation of basket studies, come now much more complex, with different arms proposing different treatment according to the different mutation. But this is pragmatic. We are not able to open 150 studies, one for each entity, for each different molecular alteration. We need to be more pragmatic, and such studies are ongoing. And this was an effort conducted in France, led by Lyon, with studies testing randomized interruption, and in this case, with sorafenib, some interesting piece of information could be gained in patients with RAS mutation, or testing only treatment, in particular when the tumor is so rare that it's difficult to do a randomization. All these studies, called also DROP studies on the acronym of our colleagues from the Netherlands, are being gathered into a single European project called PRIMOS, where we are going to mix the information gathered from these different clinical studies. That's going to be an important endeavor for the future. So here we speak of personalized treatment and targeted therapy, but immunotherapy is also in the same position. One of the important accomplishment of the French Cancer Plan is to enable to have access to research on immunotherapy, try to find biomarkers, identifying for the group of sarcoma tumors that I was mentioning, different group of sarcomas with different response to immunotherapy regimens, including super rare entities. This could not have been done without the support of the French Cancer Plan and the National Cancer Institute. Some super rare entities such as chordoma or alveolar soft part sarcoma do respond quite well, and nobody at this stage really understands why. These data also enable us to do looking at a large data set from electronic health record to identify interesting observation. Here, the observation is that patients who have been treated for a first cancer with immunotherapy have a much lower risk to develop a second cancer, and an ongoing randomized study called PREDOSTAR, supported by these institutions, is actually ongoing to explore prospectively this question. Big data, artificial intelligence is also coming of age, and some programs were supported by the cancer plans to enable a better characterization of rare entities, in this case, mesothelioma. Also with the impressive capacity of artificial intelligence to be able, by simply reading the slides, to identify specific mutations in the case of gastrointestinal stromal tumors, and to predict patient outcome more precisely than the current algorithm. and being able to identify, again, the nature of the mutation, simply looking at the slide. This technology is not ready for prime time, but that's very much work in progress, and we'll be able probably in the future to use that to enable pathologists and doctors and researchers to gain sometimes. Okay, so to conclude, I would like to spend some time to present some of the examples of the utility of these plans to develop personalized medicine, but the best to come probably comes from better organization. We were lucky enough to be supported by the French NCI from the beginning of 2010 to build, which enabled us to build a network of rare cancers in France. There were 10 networks built. This one is a network on on sarcoma with 26 centers. A registry which was built, which is exhaustive now for all patients with sarcoma in France. And what we have seen with this now 15-year follow-up is that patients treated in reference center do derive a better survival, much better survival, as you can see here at 30 months, and lower risk of relapse. We were able, thanks to this support, to develop and to characterize the true incidence of this disease in this country. And we were able, and this is probably the most important slide, we were able to significantly improve the survival of all patients with sarcoma in this example since the beginning of the launch of the plan. So the plan had really definitely an important impact on patient outcome. The different plans had the different major impact on patient outcome. We are now connecting this database to the social security database. This is a big project which is currently being developed and which is providing surprising observation, very much work in progress. This is work in progress. This is not the end. This is not even the beginning of the end, but this is the end of the beginning. This will be my conclusion. Actually, on the three topics, you can see that there were high levels of connection between Unicancer, a successful network of comprehensive cancer centers in France, connected nationally and internationally, with the cancer plans, thanks to the political decision, which enabled to get coordinated action of all stakeholders and was an important source of support, and which enabled, in particular, the development of precision medicine in France, which is not only medication, but also better organization. This is, again, just the end of the beginning. Thank you very much for your attention, and happy to take questions.
Hola. Professor Blais is actually in Varsovia. That means it's midnight. So we really appreciate for his participation today with us. Can you hear me, Professor? Okay. Thank you, Professor, for your fantastic and extremely comprehensive talk showing the impressive work and history of Unicancer, Science General de Gaulle, and the French Cancer Plan and Precision Oncology too. We have time for one or two questions. I have one question. My question is regarding the concept of reference cancer center. As you showed, there are many publications, including some published by you, that demonstrate superior therapeutic outcomes in reference cancer center. My question is, how do you define a reference cancer center, and why the better outcomes in these kind of centers?
Thank you very much for this question. This is a not so simple question. I think it would be fair to say that the definition of a reference center involves, by definition, the presence of all specialties gathered in a single entity, including basic research, translational research, clinical research connected to the routine treatment. So really, it's a multidisciplinary approach which brings together all specialists exclusively concentrated on cancer. And now, if you want to define further reference centers, it's a bit more complicated. It may come to the number of patients getting treated. It may come also to the question of quality of care as measured by compliance to clinical practice guidelines and survival, but that is very much work in progress. It's probably a bit simpler for rare cancer, where on top of that, you have the minimum number of cancer patients being treated in the center per year.
Thank you. So it's not just a matter of number of patients treated. It's not just the number. Okay,
it's not the number, it's the presence of a surrounding, an environment with all specialties dedicated to cancer at the highest level, plus research.
And in your opinion, is, for example, to mandatory and MDTB, it's mandatory and central pathology review, or is mandatory research activities or teaching activities for become a real reference cancer center?
I think teaching activities is very important, but that's part of all hospitals engage in excellence of care. Yes, I think that this aspect of research, which is sometimes difficult to define, because you may have different type of research, and I mean there are comprehensive cancer centers who do not have necessarily an extensive basic research lab. Nevertheless, the connection between these different specialties is what is crucial. You are right, numbers are important, but it's not only a question of numbers.
Okay, you mentioned the concept of rare cancer. What does mean exactly, a rare cancer? What are the particular challenges you face with rare cancer? And you work,
yes,
you work just in just cancer, actually?
Actually, I'm working mainly, almost exclusively, on rare cancer and drug development in rare cancers. But I, of course, have other activities which limit my capacity to see other type of tumors, even though this happens. Rare cancers is relatively simple for the definition. It's tumors with an incidence inferior per 6 per 100,000 per year. So altogether, rare cancers, they represent about 20-25% of patients with cancers altogether. Large number of patients with rare cancers, but a large number of different rare cancers. And they represent the death due to.
Thank you. I don't know if we have some questions from the audience. And I have a last question, Professor. With the routine molecular profiling of all kinds of cancer, probably all cancer will become a rare cancer in the near future. What do you think about that?
I completely agree. I completely agree with you. I would say that the majority of cancers will be split into molecular subtypes and immunological subtypes. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean that some of these rare cancers can be pulled together to get treated. Typically, breast cancer, ER positive, probably a similar type of approach will be undertaken.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. And really, my last question is a practical recommendation. What practical recommendation or tips would you give to doctors, especially to young doctors, who wish to divide their time between clinical activities and research activities? Is that really possible? How can they achieve that? How can FALP need to do to achieve that? To be a clinical doctor and a research professional, the same person. Is that possible?
That's
really?
a very, very interesting question. I don't think that there is a unique answer. I would say that there are probably different groups of doctors doing that. Those who are focused on clinics and are doing research as a secondary task, informing their routine practice, and others the other way around. But you still have some researchers doing 50-50. So how do we do that? I do not have a good recipe, but I would tell you two obvious things. First, it takes time to get trained. We have to be patient because research is a need. You need patience and to be equipped to against frustration. And second, you need to work a lot. But you need to work a lot in the sense of having a lot of enthusiasm about the work you do. Connecting clinics and research, there is nothing more exciting and enthusiastic, my perspective.
Okay, thank you. And does Unicancer have in his strategic plan to connect French cancer, with other cancers beyond Europe, for example, in Latin America or in Chile? Is there a strategic plan, or is not possible to work?
Not only it's possible, but I think this is really something we want to expand. To give you an example, we were recently part of a project which you may be aware of, which was a European project called CellNet, in which we connected with South American cancer centers on the theme of rare cancers, and it was extremely informative. So I really
that's
think
for sarcoma, yeah?
Yeah, it was for sarcoma.
Okay.
And this led to construction of research projects afterwards, which were not related to the project. So we need to work more together, and we need and we want to do that. Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Professor, really for being here with us today. And hope to see you soon in person here in Chile in the next future. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, Professor.
Thank you very much. Goodbye. Thank you.
Y gracias también al entrevistador por las preguntas aquí compartidas en el diálogo enriquecedor y también ser mediador entre las preguntas que ustedes mismos han podido hacer llegar. Vamos avanzando ya para terminar la jornada, pero no menos importante dejar en este espacio la siguiente charla. Para finalizar esta primera interesante jornada, quiero dejar aquí al doctor Moisés Russo, oncólogo radioterapeuta de la FALP, economista también me indicaba, para hablar del impacto de la revisión central de las drogas de alto costo. Así que, bienvenido, doctor.
Muchas gracias a los que se quedaron hasta tan altas horas de la tarde. Tengo solamente 12 diapositivas, va a ser una presentación corta, pero les quiero mostrar un poco algo en lo que trabajamos entre el 2019 y el 2023 a nivel central en el Ministerio de Salud, algo que posteriormente ahora se interrumpió, pero creo que muestra algunas lecciones que son útiles para países en desarrollo. Como ya vimos, uno de los problemas más grandes que tenemos los países en desarrollo, que es lo mismo que para los países desarrollados, tiene que ver con el alto costo y la expansión de las drogas de alto costo en cáncer. Como ustedes pueden ver, el crecimiento compuesto de todas estas drogas sigue aumentando y la verdad no son tolerables para los sistemas de salud como los nuestros. Ahora, algunos de los problemas que nosotros tenemos son muy distintos a los de los países desarrollados. Y por lo tanto, algunas de las instituciones que ellos han desarrollado para nosotros no necesariamente van a tener la misma utilidad. El contexto en el que estamos trabajando nosotros es diferente. Y les quiero mostrar algunas cosas. Nosotros teníamos, por ejemplo, este contexto después de la pandemia COVID. Sabíamos, estos trabajos fueron hechos antes de la crisis actual, que se venía una enorme crisis posterior al COVID con respecto a los casos de cáncer en Chile. Esto lo sabíamos, estos son publicaciones hechas por equipos nacionales en revistas importantes donde sabíamos que efectivamente íbamos a tener grandes problemas. Y parte de lo que nos está pasando es esto. Nuestras políticas de salud se están desarrollando en un momento en que estamos con una crisis de cáncer extremadamente importante. Hay dificultades para nosotros con respecto al uso de criterios farmacoeconómicos en nuestro país, porque se requieren algunos consensos sociales muy importantes para poder ocupar estos criterios. Y nosotros, si ustedes revisan actualmente la prensa, revisan las discusiones en el Senado, etcétera, estamos siendo tironeados hacia distintos lugares. Estamos siendo tironeados tanto con respecto a las necesidades de la población, necesidades que podemos establecer bastante claramente con cifras de mortalidad. Estamos siendo también tironeados por asociaciones de pacientes que tienen legítimos intereses en que ciertas drogas se aprueben. Pero hay que acordarse que los pacientes son personas que ya están afectadas de cáncer y sus intereses no son necesariamente los de aquellas personas que aún no son diagnosticadas o acaban de ser diagnosticadas. Y eso nos está generando un problema a nosotros en hacia dónde estamos distribuyendo los recursos de salud en cáncer. Potencialmente, algunas decisiones de criterios farmacoeconómicos, cuando no tenemos estos consensos relevantes hechos en nuestro país, pueden ser consideradas como injustas. Y por lo tanto, nosotros en Chile no hemos sido capaces de establecer consensos que nos permitan usar criterios farmacoeconómicos en la toma de decisión. Y esa es actualmente nuestra realidad. Nosotros tenemos presiones políticas también. Yo les puedo comentar que en algún momento algunas inclusiones de algunos fármacos en el listado de fármacos de cáncer se debieron a que teníamos presiones porque no se iba a aprobar una reforma de pensiones si no entraba cierta droga de cáncer en el formulario. Intereses completamente ajenos a la práctica de la oncología. La definición de umbrales de costo-efectividad en Chile no se ha hecho. No tenemos suficiente recurso humano para generar todas las modelaciones económicas que se podrían requerir para trabajar como lo hacen los países desarrollados. Actualmente no hay más de 5 a 10 grupos que pueden estar haciendo este tipo de modelaciones en el país. Y la definición de la aplicabilidad de resultados es difícil. Les quiero mostrar qué es lo que nosotros hicimos entre el 2019 y el 2023. Nosotros creamos un comité de drogas de alto costo en el Ministerio de Salud. Este comité definió los fármacos para cobertura, pero con un presupuesto asignado fijo para un periodo anual. Esto es un techo presupuestario duro, algo que no en muchos países se utiliza, pero que efectivamente en nuestro caso nos permitía cuadrar cifras con lo que son los presupuestos del Ministerio de Hacienda, que son solamente presupuestos anuales. Y por lo tanto algunos tipos de decisiones que se ocupan en países desarrollados no los podemos ocupar de la misma forma en Chile. Cuando uno dice vamos a hacer un modelo económico que muestra ahorros a 5 años con cierto tipo de terapia, o vamos a comenzar esta nueva intervención en cáncer que genera mejoras de productividad futura de la población, eso no es tomado en cuenta por los análisis de impacto presupuestario del Ministerio de Hacienda. Y por lo tanto, este tipo de modelaciones que se utilizan en algunos países desarrollados no se condicen con nuestra realidad local con respecto a cómo se pueden tomar decisiones. Aseguramos con este comité que se cumplieran además los criterios de inicio de tratamiento. Y esto creo que es algo que es único a nivel mundial, que no se ha hecho en ningún otro lugar, donde nosotros revisamos durante 4 años cada una de las indicaciones de drogas de alto costo hecha por cualquier oncólogo en la red pública, previo a que se pudiera iniciar ese fármaco. Esto es algo que no se hace en ningún lugar. El paciente tenía que contar con toda la información y sus exámenes para poder iniciar la intervención. Les voy a presentar también por qué eso es importante. Y aseguramos además el monitoreo de los pacientes durante el tratamiento. ¿A qué me refiero con esto? Nosotros exigimos que los oncólogos cada 3 meses o cada 6 meses, dependiendo de la droga, nos enviaran nuevamente los exámenes de sus pacientes para asegurarnos que el paciente no había progresado y que no se estaba utilizando la droga después de la progresión. Fíjense que esto no es decir que el utilizar una droga después de progresión está mal. Es solamente decir que el utilizar una droga después de la progresión no está financiado, porque eso requiere otro nivel de recursos que solamente el calcular el inicio de la droga con la mediana de tiempo de uso. Y asegurábamos entonces el término de la utilización de la droga cuando existía progresión de enfermedad, que es uno de los problemas de cálculo más difíciles de la práctica diaria de la oncología. Ahora, esto nos permitió mapear algunos déficits que tiene nuestra red que pueden requerir recursos financieros mucho más urgentes que los nuevos fármacos, que son lo que más se discute en la política pública. Y todo lo anterior implica que un tratamiento técnicamente razonable puede ser rechazado porque no está financiado, pero no necesariamente que la indicación esté equivocada, es simplemente que no está financiado. Y esto lo partimos, esta es una del 2019, este es un formulario del 2021 y solamente les voy a mostrar una cosa. Nuestro criterio principal fue financiar un esquema de tratamiento adecuado para la mayoría de los pacientes oncológicos. Esto es algo extremadamente difícil porque es un criterio sustantivo de distribución de recursos. Es decir, que nosotros vamos a financiar para cada tipo de cáncer por lo menos un tratamiento. Eso no necesariamente va a ser costo efectivo, no van a ser la misma cantidad de costos por cada uno de estos pacientes y tal vez no van a ser la misma cantidad de beneficios, pero nos permite asegurar que cada paciente tenga por lo menos una oportunidad de sentirse atendido por el sistema. y les pedíamos que los médicos enviaran por lo menos cuáles eran todos los exámenes que tenía este paciente para estar solicitando este fármaco. Todo esto parece bastante obvio. El proceso en general, para que ustedes tengan la idea, esto de una diapositiva, perdón, está en inglés porque lo estamos preparando para publicación. El hospital tenía que solicitar el fármaco, el comité central tenía que revisar esta petición, el hospital puede utilizar el fármaco una vez que estaba aprobado y posterior a eso el comité central revisaba que el paciente no estuviera en progresión de enfermedad. Como ustedes pueden ver, es un trabajo grande revisar todas las indicaciones a nivel nacional y hacer seguimiento de todos los pacientes para asegurarse que los pacientes no estuvieran recibiendo drogas posterior a la progresión. Ahora, ¿por qué hacer esto? Y esto es la realidad nacional, esto es muy distinto a otros países. ¿Estamos listos para permitir en Chile indicaciones sin revisión central? Fíjense lo que significa, en qué área de nuestra economía uno podría decir que un profesional, aunque sea un médico altamente calificado, puede con el puño de su letra, de su mano, escribir una prescripción que genere un gasto al Estado de $100.000 por su cuenta, sin ningún tipo de revisión. Lo que les puse ahí, por ejemplo, son 3 lugares del país, Arica, Magallanes, Punta Arenas, donde hay un solo oncólogo médico. Esta es una persona que trabaja sola, que no tiene con quién realmente en el día a día discutir sus casos, que tiene un comité oncológico donde él es el absoluto líder de ese comité porque es la persona que probablemente más sabe de todos los tipos de cáncer. Pero para su desgracia, este oncólogo médico al trabajar solo también ve todo tipo de cáncer. Él tiene que hacer prescripciones de drogas de alto costo de todos los cánceres que pueden tener sus pacientes. Y eso es algo que casi ningún oncólogo en un centro de referencia que utiliza drogas de alto costo tiene nunca que hacer. La dificultad que nosotros tenemos acá es que estas personas además están bajo gran presión asistencial y están viendo a personas muy desesperadas. Y hay una combinación muy difícil para la economía de un país. Y eso es la combinación de pacientes desesperados con la buena voluntad de un oncólogo con mucha carga asistencial. Esa es una combinación muy difícil de trabajar. Estos oncólogos trabajan solos. ¿Debiese un oncólogo que ve todas las patologías posibles de una región poder prescribir sin ningún contrapeso un fármaco que genera un costo de $100.000 anuales? Esto es una limitación que uno tiene que poner, porque esa persona, da lo mismo cuán buena sea, sus decisiones no van a ser todas correctas. Ahora, nosotros les voy a dar algunos ejemplos. Cuando partimos este programa de revisión central, no había nadie haciendo revisiones centrales de este tipo de casos. Estos son, por ejemplo, algunos casos que teníamos. Un paciente tuvo una progresión de su enfermedad y nos llegó una solicitud de drogas de alto costo 2 años y medio después de su progresión. El paciente no había tenido una nueva tapificación. Un paciente nos solicitaron una adyuvancia 9 años después de su cirugía, con enfermedad irresecable. Un paciente le partieron una inmunoterapia, no respondió bien, pero después no encontró nunca una hora para un control con su oncólogo y tuvo progresión de enfermedad. Este paciente obviamente seguiría en la farmacia del hospital recibiendo una droga que sale $10.000 mensuales solamente porque no tiene hora de control con su oncólogo. El oncólogo atendió al paciente previo que estuvieron los resultados de su EGFR, el cual era mutado, le indicó quimioterapia en ese momento, el paciente progresó, le indicó una inmunoterapia, pero el paciente tenía un EGFR mutado que nunca lo logró mostrarle al oncólogo porque no tenía hora con él. Informes médicos inicialmente escritos a mano. Ese es un informe médico para solicitar una droga que nos sale $10.000 mensuales. La red que nosotros tenemos no es una red que en su base esté lista para realmente permitir prescripción de fármacos que salen $100.000 anuales. Nuestra dificultad es mucho más basal, pero la presión viene por este lado. Tenemos grandes desequilibrios en coberturas, porque como la presión viene principalmente por el lado de los medicamentos innovadores, y la presión de las asociaciones de pacientes viene de ciertos tipos de asociaciones de pacientes, se generan desequilibrios de coberturas importantes. Lo que les estoy mostrando ahí son las coberturas que tenemos en nuestro sistema para cáncer de mama, que ustedes pueden ver que son bastante extensas en distintas fases del cáncer, y lo que tenemos para cáncer gástrico, que es uno de nuestros principales cánceres en cuanto a mortalidad. Y si ustedes lo piensan de esta forma, ustedes habrán visto alguna vez asociaciones de pacientes o marchas por el cáncer de mama. No creo que nunca hayan visto una marcha de los pacientes de cáncer gástrico. Tampoco van a haber visto una marcha de pacientes de glioblastoma multiforme ni una marcha de los pacientes con cáncer de canal anal. Y por lo tanto, este tipo de presiones políticas nos genera algunas dificultades con respecto a la simetría de las coberturas. Este es simplemente un ejemplo de los tratamientos de cáncer de mama. Ustedes pueden ver ahí en color, tenemos en amarillo, están marcadas las cosas que cubre el Comité de Drogas de Alto Costo. En rojo están las cosas que están cubiertas en el GES, que es nuestro sistema de garantías. Y ustedes pueden ver que incluso si separamos cáncer de mama en algunas poblaciones, en los cánceres triple negativos no tenemos ninguna droga realmente avanzada. Pero cáncer es uno de los cánceres de mama con mejor cobertura. ¿Qué pasa cuando uno hace la revisión central de casos, de todos los casos oncológicos en que se solicitan drogas de alto costo? Estos fueron nuestros resultados. Básicamente, al inicio, casi un 30-40% de todos los casos son rechazados en la revisión central. Esto significa que 30% de los casos que cuestan potencialmente $100.000 anuales son rechazados cuando uno revisa para quién se le está pidiendo y qué cosa. Y esto va disminuyendo a través del tiempo cuando los médicos se acostumbran a que hay una revisión central y hay ciertos criterios que hay que cumplir. Pero lo que estoy diciendo con esto es que un país que tiene una red frágil como la nuestra, al iniciar este tipo de terapias de drogas de alto costo, puede estar teniendo un gasto casi un 40% mayor solamente por un problema en la calidad de la prescripción o que los médicos simplemente no tuvieron acceso a las cosas que necesitaban. ¿A qué me refiero con eso? Al revisar nosotros cuáles fueron las razones para rechazar casos, de esto solamente tengo datos de 2 años, porque fíjense en esto, por cómo funciona nuestro país, era más fácil conseguir el dinero para las drogas de alto costo que para la plataforma electrónica para hacer el seguimiento de las drogas de alto costo. Son presupuestos distintos. Es mucho más fácil que yo consiga un presupuesto para ocupar una droga de alto costo mensual que el presupuesto para contratar un oncólogo que prescriba esa droga de alto costo mensual. Van por glosas distintas en el presupuesto de la nación. Y lo que ustedes pueden ver acá es que de todos los casos que fueron rechazados, algunos se rechazaban porque nos estaban pidiendo algo que no está financiado. Básicamente se nos está solicitando algo que puede ser razonable, pero no tiene financiamiento. Después tenemos algunos que ustedes pueden ver ahí, dice, no se está cumpliendo con los criterios de inclusión. Eso puede ser que la indicación es razonable, pero no cumple con los criterios de inclusión del estudio que determinó que esta droga sirve para estos pacientes. Y finalmente, que se está solicitando una droga para un paciente que no tiene todos los datos. Y esto puede ser, no está el estudio de mutaciones, no tiene una etapificación reciente, el paciente le falta una resonancia de encéfalo, etc. Y por lo tanto, la falta de acceso a las cosas básicas es lo que genera en nuestra red el mayor problema, mucho más que la falta de acceso a estas tecnologías de alto costo. Y hacer una revisión central, esto solamente es un gráfico de tiempo. Fíjense, arriba están los fármacos financiados garantizados del GES para riñón. Esto quiere decir que no hay un problema de acceso. Y ustedes pueden ver que el tiempo de esos fármacos versus los tiempos de los de alto costo para la revisión central, da lo mismo hacer una revisión central. No toma más tiempo, toma una semana más. El problema principal está dado por la cifra de abajo. Fíjense ustedes cuánto tiempo se demora un hospital en iniciar un fármaco una vez que está aprobado. Da lo mismo si está garantizado o no. Un hospital se demora casi 80 días a 90 días en poder iniciar ese fármaco. Los problemas que tenemos del proceso de compra de nuestros hospitales tienen que ver también con la deuda hospitalaria y que tienen cerrados sus procesos de compra. Nosotros no tenemos problemas de comprar fármacos de alto costo, tenemos problemas generales, estructurales de nuestra red. En conclusión, el Comité de Drogas de Alto Costo en el periodo que funcionó con revisión central entre el 2019 y el 2023 permitió liberar recursos explícitamente para estas drogas de alto costo. Para que ustedes tengan una idea, cada peso que el comité revisaba mejoraba en 60 pesos la distribución, solamente a raíz de cuánto me costaba tener oncólogos trabajando versus cuánto dinero se ahorra por evitar prescripciones que estaban equivocadas. El mecanismo de control preventivo inicial permitió usar los recursos de la forma mejor posible. Un porcentaje importante de los casos en que el oncólogo consideraba objeto de una droga de alto costo no era elegible para un beneficio de esta droga. El sistema de salud tiene varias falencias estructurales graves, tanto en diagnóstico como en etapificación, que no permiten de forma adecuada manejar drogas de alto costo en la red pública. Y en los últimos años se eliminaron los controles preventivos, el rol técnico de esta comisión que habíamos establecido, y se decidió destinar recursos para drogas de alto costo que no son realmente drogas de alto costo para intentar suplir algunas de las falencias de la red. Pero en conclusión, como ustedes pueden ver, uno puede establecer un sistema de revisión central para tratar de mejorar la calidad en términos de la prescripción de drogas de alto costo, pero tenemos problemas de nuestra red que son mucho más severos que preocuparnos exclusivamente de esta parte de mecanismos innovadores, porque los mejores oncólogos que estén en el país, algunos están trabajando muy solos y bajo una presión asistencial que no les permite tomar las mejores decisiones. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, doctor, por acompañarnos, por la presentación, por ilustrarnos y, como bien decía, también por llegar hasta esta hora de la tarde. Ha valido la pena los minutos de atraso por todo lo que hemos aprendido y por las conferencias y charlas de talla mundial que hemos podido disfrutar. Así que, de esta manera, ya los liberamos. Concluye entonces así esta primera jornada del Congreso Internacional FALP Generando Valor en Oncología. Les damos las gracias a todos los presentes y, por supuesto, la invitación queda extendida para mañana. A cada uno de ustedes los esperamos a las 8 de la mañana en este mismo lugar y aquí mismo también me vuelvo a encontrar con ustedes. Así que será hasta pronto.